everybody, welcome back to part 2 of the strip down of this LF125 grit. So in this one we're taking it right down to the frame. Okay, so 17mm drain bung, and that's the oil that's coming out, and that is nice and black. That doesn't look very healthy at all. So I'm just going to stand the bike up for a couple of minutes and just let it all drain out. Okay, so oil's out. So we've got some tie wrap holding this on, because as you can see this is all damaged and been glued. We can repair that. Okay, so I'm just going to snip this tie wrap. Basically, let's just see what it's doing. So that basically was holding that on there, so that's snapped away, look. So we're going to have another crosshead that side, and then that should come away. Then we'll just have to disconnect the headlight. So I'll do that and then we'll come back and have a look. Okay, so that's that side out. Again, we can repair this, but we've also got another bracket underneath, and we've got an 8mm down here that we've got to unscrew, and that is, I don't know if you can see the other side, is on there's a nut on there. So I'm just going to remove that, and that's got the headlight cowling off. Okay, so actually that was the wrong bolt, because there's actually a thread on there, so we can get a correct size bolt when we put it back together. So your headlight is electric, so you've got your side light there, look, got your main bulb there, and it goes up into one wire which is on a plug, and we're looking how it's routed like that. So we can now take that and just put it to one side. Again, we're going to take the headlight out at a later date because we're going to paint that, we're going to repair it. Okay, so this is really freaky. So if you see that, that's a steering lock. So basically what you've got to do is you've got to go all the way, get your hand behind there when it's in turn, and then turn it, you know, being a bit of a contortionist, and yeah, it's a steering lock. It won't work now because it's not on lock, but never seen that before. That is well primitive. So okay, so what I'm going to do now is, while the bike is still sort of in one piece, I'm going to crack off my spindles and my front brake caliper bolts just while I've got leverage. So I'm going to kick this piece of wood out of the way because we've put the bolt back in. Okay, and I'm going to do the same at the back just to make it easier. If I can get to any engine sort of mounting bolts like those, the other side, I'm going to go around and crack them all off, okay, so that it's easier when we're taking the engine out and everything. Then what we're going to do is, basically we're going to, because we've took the bash plate off now, I'm going to stand it up on a strong plastic box, because I haven't got my jack, and then we'll carry on taking it to bits. We're not far off now, to be fair. Okay guys, so it's on my plastic box. I do not recommend this one bit. It isn't safe, but it's doing the job because my jack's under the 600F. Okay, so what I've done is I've just released the clutch cable from the clutch lever. So basically I've undone it, and I can now, where are we, just flip that cable underneath there, that's it, and out it comes. So that's a clutch cable off the engine. So I'd released my bars, I've cracked off the brake master cylinder. Okay, so let's just have a quick look at the front. So we've got the indicators, so we've got a busted one there, we've got one hanging off there, they've got to come off, but what we're interested in is the wiring. So again, we've got, don't know if you can see it, we've got a double green there, which is the earth, so they both plug into that. Then we've got a blue and we've got an orange, okay, coming from some wiring up here, but that's all we're interested in at the moment is blue and orange, and the green, so we know they're for the indicators. So I can basically unplug them. I'm going to have to do that with two hands, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to whip these off. So I've got two 10mm either side, and we can bin these indicators. Okay, so I've just loosened them off so they're hand tight. So if you can see, basically I've still got to undo that orange wire. Come on, no, it's not having it. We'll do the other side. So this is the broken one, doesn't matter about that. Basically we just pull it out like that, so that's how they fit in. So you've got two holes in there, and you basically put that through there like that, put that in and tighten it. But we're getting rid of these. Well, these are going on eBay, so somebody might have one that's in the same state as that, whereas it's snapped off, but we've got one there that just needs the lens. So I shall put these individually on eBay, see if I can plough a bit back from it, but we'll put another set of indicators on it. Okay, so I'll get that one removed, and we'll have a look, and we'll start and get this front end off. Okay, so we're just going to whip this front caliper off. So I've undone it. Whoops. Just letting it drip out. Just nip that up 1 second. Okay, so I've got my 10mm on here. Whoops. So I've got two 10mm bolts. We unscrew them. That's one. Just need my socket on there a sec. And there we go. So if I just, I'm going to need two hands, guys, so I'm just going to whip this caliper off, okay, and then we'll come back and carry on. Okay, so the caliper's off, it's down there. So next what we're going to do is we're going to get this top end off, then we're going to drop the forks out and take the yoke, well, take the wheel out and drop the yokes out as well. So first of all, we've got two of these cables under here. One is for the tacho, for your rev counter. Okay, so it just unscrews like that and pull that cable out. Again, we're just having a look how it's routed. Okay, so we're going to follow it down and we're following it down again, and there it goes into the engine. So we've just got a Phillips head on that and we can whip that out. Okay, so again, excuse me, with our speedo, so again that will pull out. We can see how that's routed and now it's going down into the speedo drive at the bottom, so we can get that out of the way for a minute. I've already slackened off my spindle so the wheel will come out, but at the moment I just want to get this off. So I'm now looking at my wiring that I've got down here. Okay, so my wiring for my clocks is there, is those two. Okay, so I'm going to take a good look so I can undo them. They should just spring out. I'm going to need two hands. Okay, so we've got a clip there where it clips into, as you can see, then it comes up into the clocks. So we've got two 10mm bolts underneath, one there, and hopefully the clock should then lift out. So I'll get them out and then we'll come back and have a look. Okay, so that's the clocks off. So I've got one connection from the clocks coming down this side to that plug. So next, looking at my clutch cable. So I'm just looking how that's routed. Okay, seeing where it's going, and again I can see where it went. So for reference I can come back to this video, and again I can see where it went. You can get the damn thing out, or I can pull it. So I'm just going to get it through this bracket here. Okay. It's just this rubber thing and it's about a shot anyway. So poke that through there. That's it. So clutch cable off. So next what I've got to look at is my switch gears. So I'm going to look at this side. Okay. So I've got two 10mm bolts on the bottom, or the 8mm. I think they're 8mm. Holding that on. Basically that's going down there, into those two plugs there. So I'm going to remove that, and I'm also going to do the same the other side. So I can take my brake what do you call it, brake line off, and again I'm looking where that's routed. Whoops. And again it went down there. So I'm going to whip them off, and then we'll have a look. We've got the throttle cable to take off. We'll whip the master cylinder off, switch gears from this side, and then we'll be able to whip this bracket off here. Okay guys, so I've got the master cylinder off, but if we have a look at it, it ain't looking too clever. So I don't know whether the window's been falling out. Somebody's tried to glue it in, the glue's reacted with the, because that window is plastic, not glass. There goes Barry Sheen. So basically, I mean, that anyway would be an MOT fail, because the tester needs to see through it how much brake fluid is actually sitting in the master cylinder. So that would be an MOT fail. So this thing is toast really, but we've got to look at it. So what have we got on it? Okay, so we've got a couple of these Star brake reservoir cap screws. Now if you need any of them, they like to charge you a lot of money for them on eBay. So we're going to keep them. We've got a brake lever pivot bolt there, which we can keep. We've got a good lever we can keep. Good pair of bolts there we can keep, and then underneath we've got a brake light switch. I mean, they're about £4. So although I've got to get a new one, so what I'll do is basically for less than £20 you can get a set of Chinese ones off eBay, and they're really good quality, believe it or not. So we'll replace this, but again we're looking at what we can salvage. I might get one of these where it's got a snap lever. I've got a lever spare. You know, it's not costing me anything to store these bits away, label them up, store them away. If I need a brake light switch, I've got one. If I need a pair of those screws, I've got some. So although it's knackered, there's parts that we can salvage off it. Okay, so we'll go back now and get the rest of the front end off. Okay guys, quickly before we go back, that's the lever that came off the moped, okay, where we got a snapped end. Now if we take this, we have a look at that, that's going to do the job. So we've actually got a lever for the moped without having to spend any money, because we're going to take it off this master cylinder that's scrap. So win-win. Okay, so I'm going to remove my throttle switch gear, and I'm just having a look where my throttle cable is routed. Okay, so where are we? So it's going down there, it's going under there, it's then going through there and into the top of my carb. So basically I've got two Phillips heads there. That'll split off. I can whip the nipple out, whip the cable off, and then I've got two Phillips heads there again where that'll split in two, and I can take it off the bar. Okay, so I've undone them screws. Basically that pops off, it pops out the nipple on the throttle, off comes the throttle. I'll just put that there for a minute. So the way that this goes on, now this is another thing we've got to remember. So this is the switch gear. So the way that it's designed is it slides on to the bar first. Okay, so we'll have to remember that. So I'm going to put the screws back in that. Just put that on there for a second. And then we'll go around and have a look at the other side. So there's my throttle cable. I'm just going to leave that loose a minute. Because I've got to just take it off the carb, but we're not doing that at this particular minute. So basically I've got the same again that side, and I'm going to whip them off. That clears this area of cables and everything. We can take this bracket off after and then get the wheel and everything off. Okay, so I've got that off. So basically that cover goes on the back of it, goes around the bar. You undo those two, which go on there to sort of clamp it on, and that's nice and free now. So I'm just going to pop that down. Obviously again I shall put it back together to store it, put the nuts on it so that we don't lose them. So what I've done now is I've just got a Stanley knife, I've just ripped that. We're not putting these bars back on, okay? I've got a set of Renthals in the loft that are going to go on this. So I'm just basically trying to hold the camera and just twist this off, because there we go, it's off. I'll go on the floor a minute because I want to take this off. So again, this sort of, it's on one bolt, and we've just got to slide the clutch lever off. There we go, so that's off, so we can put that safe. That's looking okay. Just pop that on the table. Right, so now we've got, oops, we've got nothing holding our bars on. So what I've done is I'd loosened these off on these risers, so we can literally unscrew these. They're all 10mm. And off they come. So now let's pop these on the table. That's our bars off, okay? So we'll keep them, but we're not going to use them again, okay? So we're going to funk this bike up a little bit. So next, so I'm all clear now. These are some weird way of holding the cables. A bit strange they are. So basically my switch gear to my left hand side is that green one and that white one. Okay, so these plugs are all different sizes, different colours. So I know that one plugs into I think the clocks, and these two will plug into this switch gear. So I'll unclip them, and that means I can't do it with one hand. Then I can take that away. So next is just two 8mm there and there, and this bracket should come off. So I'll whip that off and we'll come back and see what we can take off next. Okay, so I've just loosened them off. So we've got these two 8mm here. So that's one. They're bloody long. Two. There's Rossi, you can hear him. And that's the bracket off. So I'm just going to put this again, safe, ready to bag up. I'm just piling stuff on the table. And I shall bag it all up and label it. Okay, so where are we at now? So if we have a look at it now, we need to just remove this rev counter cable, and that is a Phillips down there, and basically it will pull out. And what we're going to do next is we're going to remove the front wheel. Okay, so I'm not going to do it holding the camera. Basically, I've took the nut to the end. I'm going to pull the spindle through. The wheel will drop out with the speedo drive and the cable, and it'll just leave the forks and the yokes on the front end, which we're going to then take off in a minute. Just before I do that, I'll show you this. Look, that's your speedo drive cable. So you've got like a flat end there. Don't know if you can see in there, that fits into there. You push it down. Before you do, you remove this bolt, okay? So that pushes down into there, that marries up with that, and then you put your bolt back in to keep it secured. So now I can take my I can just pull that through, look, there we go, and out it comes. So I'll put that safe, okay, and get the wheel off. Okay, so my wheel's off, got my speedo drive here, and basically that cable literally screws into the end there. Okay, so we unscrew that. Whoops. So inside we've got that, and inside the cable we've got that. So that basically slits over the top, and then we just tighten that down, and that is the speedo cable and our speedo drive. So we'll just put them there a minute. So the next one is we're going to whip the forks out So you've got these pinch bolts, so I think they're 10 mils. You've got one there, two there, and it should just slide out. So I've got a bit of a seesaw going on at the moment. It's not going anywhere, so I'll be able to lift it up and just pull these forks out. So I'll whip the forks out and then we'll get these yokes off. Okay, so I'll literally just loosen them off, and these have, there we go, drop down and out they come. So if we have a look at these are anodised. You can see it's all faded, but once upon a time on the adrenaline that had some faded anodised USD forks. So it's going to be great for me to show you to take these once we do this bike, and we'll mirror polish these, okay? Just the same as the adrenaline. And if you look at my adrenaline now, okay, that, let's get out of the light, that was probably in a worse state than what this is, okay? So I'm going to show you when we come to rebuild this how to make this look spanking, okay, without spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds. So we're going to make this look as good as the adrenaline. Okay, so I'll whip the other fork out, so now we've got to get these yokes off. So basically it's going to be that, it's about a 32 mil, something around there, 28ish. So I'll get the breaker bar and we'll crack that off, and we'll take the yokes and all the bearings out, and we can examine them and see what they're like. Okay guys, that was 22 mil. I've literally just put it on the breaker bar, just nudged it off. So we undo that, and our top yoke should just lift off. There we go. Oh, that's a bit nasty in there, so I'm going to have to clean all that up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give that a good spray with some WD, and I'm going to leave it 10 minutes, have a quick cup of tea. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a screwdriver on there, and I'm just going to tap it off, okay? So when we tap that off, the bottom yoke should come down the tube and out. So quick cup of tea, some WD-40, and we'll get that tapped off. Okay, so I tapped that off, loosened it off, and my bottom yoke is now nice and loose. So when I unscrew that, that will just fall out in my hand. So you can see the bearings at the bottom. I'll show you the bearings in the top, and I'll take them out in a minute once I've took this off. Okay, so that's the yokes removed. So my top bearing is just there, and that's where it sits in the race. So this is a Chinese bike. We're going to use these again. We're going to clean these up. They're not too bad. There's just a bit of crap in there. We've got to basically just clean them, re-grease them, and they'll go back in. So that is the front end of the bike. So I'll just pop this on the table to put with the yoke and wrap up. So what are we going to do next? So basically we can see now we're getting our main loom is nice and free. So again we look and we see those three go through there, and that's where they connect these three this side. So I've got the horn here, there we go. So now I've got to get this bracket off exactly the same as I did the other side. Is just two 10 mils, okay, and then we're gonna whip off the back end. So basically the frame and engine is going to be sitting on the box, and then we're going to take the engine out of the frame, and we'll remove all the like the brake pedal, the foot pegs and everything. But we're nearly there. Okay, so let's get this back wheel off. Okay, so now we're going to completely remove the wiring loom. That's a throttle cable. Let's put that there. Okay, so basically we've got these, whatever they're doing here. One will obviously be the CDI. One's probably an indicator relay. Not sure, but what I've got to do is basically undo this bolt here. Remember where that goes, and there's the earth strap and a bracket just there, look. So I'll just get the bracket out of the way. I'm not quite sure what that's there for, unless it's something to do with the mudguard. Right. So basically I've just got to pull these out. Incidentally, let's just have a look at this, because this is knackered. So on a lot of the Chinese stuff you get these, they're like a resistor, and I'm hoping on there you can see some writing. I'm wanting to see exactly what it is, because I think they're measured in farads, but that is knackered, so I've got to replace it. It's just falling to bits, look. We can see in there the winding, so that's basically it's a big resistor. So cracking, that's knackered. So I've just got to get these away from there. I can see what went where. So that is going to the starter motor, I believe. So I'm just going to basically pull out the wiring loom. I think it's still connected to the rectifier down there, so I'm going to unplug that and pull the wiring loom off the bike. Okay, so that's the loom off the bike. So there it is. I've just popped it over there for a minute. So on connecting into it from here, we've got the rectifier, which is down there. I've got to just nip that off. We've then got an earth coming off the starter motor, which went onto there. We've then got another earth, which was going down to the engine. That goes onto there as well. So both of, sorry, I'm telling lies. That is actually the live to the starter motor, which goes to the start solenoid. We've then got an earth to the starter or the engine, which it goes on there. So we've also got side stand switch, which goes down there, and then we've got the two main ones coming out of the motor. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to whip this carb off. So if we just have a quick look at this, this is an absolutely crap place. It's very, very tight in there. So as you can see, you've got your two studs there on the intake that it bolts onto, and then we're hitting the frame at the back. So I've got two 10, I think they're either 10 or 12s. I've got to undo them and then slide the carb off next. Okay, so you can see that is really, really tight in there. It just will come off. Okay, so that's the carb off. So I've also removed the throttle cable. So there's the carb. So Andrew was asking me about showing the soda blaster, which is there. So when we come to rebuild this bike, we're going to soda blast this, so I'll be able to show you how we can take a crappy carb like this and make it look brand new. So yeah, we will be soda blasting that at a later date. Okay, so next, let's get rid of the wiring loom. As you can see, I'm getting stuff boxed up ready to go down the lockup to put it in storage. So next, back wheel. Okay, so what I've got to do is undo the chain adjusters. This is a cap. There's a cap over this. Pull this cap off. There we go. So basically, it's undo the spindle. Just whip the chain off and pull the wheel out. So I'll pull the wheel out, and then we'll get the side stand off and the swing arm off. Okay, just before I do, I'm just going to show you something. Okay, I mean, this chain's pretty much at it, but the wheel, I don't know whether you can see, isn't straight at all. There's more space that side than there is this side, and also we're getting right at the back of the chain adjusters. So without physically checking on the marks to see how much it is out, the wheel is at an angle going that way, so that's not been put back in properly. Also, got a load of play here, that is too slack. And again, we're excuse me, we're at the end of getting to the end of the adjustment, so it's going to need a new chain. But the good thing is the chain and sprocket sets for these are only about 15 quid, so win-win. So what I've got to do is, that's actually a 21mm just there. I've got to crack that off, take that off, and then just pull the spindle out, and I'll take the wheel out and we'll have a look. Okay, so that's the wheel off. So I've got to remove the brake disc. I'm going to take the sprocket off, probably going to change that, but I've got to check the date, see if there is a date on these tyres. We're probably going to be changing the tyres as well. These could be the original tyres. If they are, they're 11 years old. Not sure, so I've got to check that. So what am I going to do with this wheel, because we're going to replace it? Well, I'm going to keep it. Simple reason, there's spokes on it. We've got a hub. So you never know, somebody might need a spoke for one of these. They're pretty hard to come by. I've got a spoke. Well, there's a few actually. So right, next is shock absorber. So we've got one bolt there at the top. I think that's a 14mm, and then if we look down under here, you can see we've got a pretty basic shock linkage, and that's the one there where the bottom of the shock goes into. So I've just got to whip those two bolts out, then the shock absorber will just lift out. Okay, so shock is out. There it is. It's a bit crusty at the bottom. They're the bolts that came out, nice and crusty, and that was the wheel spindle, not looking too bad. The chain adjusters are great, so they're the actual markers, so they're going to need blasting and repainting. So next one, swing arm. So basically we've got that bolt there, which is the end of the spindle. So if I undo that, pull the spindle out. I've also released it at the bottom. I'll just come around here and show you from the shock linkage as well. Okay, so now pull that bolt out, and then the swing arm will come out, and we'll have a look at that. But it's not, I mean, this should be nice and free, and as you can see, it's not. It's a bit grunchy, so that's not very clever either. Okay, I'll get that out. Okay, swing arms off. There it is. And that's the spindle. So that's looking pretty okay. I've got to check the bearings in the swing arm, but what we're doing now is side stand off, so that's just a 17mm bolt, and then we've got to get the shock linkages off. They're looking pretty nasty, so these can all be blasted and refurbed. We're going to get the brake pedal off. So at the back there you've got a split pin, so that's got to come out. Obviously when we rebuild it we'll put a new one in, and then I think that's about a 15mm or something like that. There's some really odd sizes on this bike. Some of the bolts got 15s and 18s, so that's what's coming off next. Also I'm going to whip the rectifier off, so I'm just giving this WD a bit of time to get in there, and then I'll crack these off, get that off, and the side stand, and then we're just about ready for getting the motor out. Okay, so shock linkages are out. Side stands off. Rectifier's off, and we've just got the brake pedal, so I've undone it. And you've got to bear in mind that's supposed to spin round nice and freely. Look at that. Oh, that's not good either. You know, we can clean it up, yeah, but that's supposed to spin round nice and easy. So you can brake. Okay, so put them there a minute. So next ones is I'm going to get the chain off. The split link is down here somewhere. Look, it's there. Look, there's the split link. So basically, you just take that clip off. That link comes out, and then the chain will come off. So I'm going to do that, and also I'm going to remove these foot pegs. So again, you've got a split pin, so you just straighten that out, pull it out just like the one I did on that. There's a pin goes through there, just pull the pin up and the foot pegs will come off. So I'll get them off, get the chain off. I've got a side stand switch as well to get off. Again, there's a bolt missing, so I've just got a Phillips head there. I've got to get off, then that will just come away, and then we'll get the motor out. Okay, so they're off, chain's off. I've still got to get this side stand switch, but I'm going to have to get an impact driver on it, so I'm just going to wait till I've got it off the so I've got the motor out. So basically, to take the motor out, so we've got a big long bolt going through that mounting at the bottom. This is some homemade concoction that they've got a piece of a threaded bar and just put two nuts on the end, so I've got to have a look at getting sorry about that, the correct bolt for that. There's three nuts and bolts there. That's an engine mount. I've loosened them off, and then you've got two there. Okay, that goes to the motor. That's staying on for a minute, we'll take that off later, but just to get the motor away from the frame is 1, 2 basically. I'm going to take them off so I've got more clearance. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'll whip them off. I'm going to put it on the, well, I'm going to loosen them, put it on the floor, and then take the motor out on the floor, not on this flimsy box. Okay, so that is the motor out. So just got to get that side stand switch off, and I've cracked it. So get all this lot boxed up and away into storage. So we ain't going to be building this straight away, folks. It's going to be a few weeks down the line, but we will rebuild it. So if you've just found me here on YouTube, you want to see me rebuild this thing, keep watching, because it's going to get rebuilt properly. Nut and bolt job, frame up, got some paint to do on it, some refurbing. This thing's going to look pretty decent when I've done it. So I hope you've enjoyed it, folks. I hope this helps people. If you've got one of these bikes, basically a lot of the sort of, how can you put it, scrambler motocross sort of style bikes are very, very similar. This one's a lifan LF125 grit. It's a 2011, so it's 10 years old. So that's how I take one of them to bits. Thanks for watching, everybody.